Today I will explain you about choice control in Java AWT using Visual Studio Code. So you can see here we have a choice control, which is nothing but a drop down list. When you click this particular drop down list, you get all the options. So here which one you are going to select, that will be shown on screen. By default, whatever the item you have been entering, the first item, that will be shown on screen. Now there is a choice class in order to create a choice control. So the choice class is used to create a pop-up list of items from which the user may choose. So here only one selection is possible. Thus a choice control is a form of a menu. So when you click a menu, you get some options, right? Similar way here, the drop-down list is also been acting as a menu. When you click that, you get a list of options from where you are going to select. Now when the particular choice control is inactive, a choice component takes up only enough space to show the currently selected item. See, whenever you're going to click a drop-down list, then only we require some space where all the options can be seen. Whenever it is been inactive, only the selected item can be seen. So in that sense, we say that only the minimum space has been taken by the choice control whenever it is inactive. Now when the user clicks on it, the whole list of choices pops up. So in the previous slide I was showing, when you click a particular drop down list, you get all the options, whatever was added to that, and a new selection can be made from the particular existing choices. Each item in the list is a string. So all items, whatever you're adding to a particular choice control, is nothing but a string format that appears as a left justified label. Left justified means the alignment. So all labels, all the strings, whatever you're adding will be left aligned in the order it is added to the choice object. So in which order you are going to add, the same order you can see in the choice control list. Now in order to work with the choice control, we need to create a object of choice class. So choice defines only the default constructor, which creates an empty list. So here you can see choice class sees an object initialized with new for memory allocation, and we're calling it default constructor choice. So only one constructor is available in order to create a choice control. Later on we need to add the choices to this particular or options to this particular control. Now what all methods available in choice control? So in order to add any string to a choice control, there is option to the choice control. We need to use a add method, and we need to give a string what you want to add. This method adds a selection to the choice control. So in the previous, the first slide I was showing some item 1, item 2, item 3. So those were things you are going to write as a string. Now there is one method called get selected item, and which returns a string whatever you have been selected. So this method returns a string contain the name of the item. Suppose I select item 1, so that item 1 will be returned. If I select item 4, that item 4 will be returned as a string to you. Now there is another method called get selected index, which returns an integer, that is index number. Now this method returns the index of the item whatever you have been selected. So in the options, whatever you are going to select, that particular index number you are going to access. Now the first item in the index is starting from 0, and by default the first item added to the list will be list is selected by default. So if you add 5 elements, the first element will be shown on screen by default. Later on you can select the other one. Now there is a method called get item count, which returns an integer. Now this method is used to obtain the number of items in the list. Suppose you have the five options, so I want that particular count. Then you can apply that object.get item count. It returns an integer. Then you have a method called select, and we are going to pass the index number of what option you want to select from the existing options. So this method set the currently selected item with a 0 based integer. So let's suppose you have 5 options. I want only the third one to be selected. So you can write here the choice control object.select of 3. Then whenever you run your application, the third option will be selected. Now instead of index number, you can give the name of the item also, option, like which one you want to select. So this method set the currently selected item with a string that will match a name in the list. So whatever you give, that name need to match in the list, that will be getting selected by default. So when you run your application, you can see the choice control will be showing that particular selected item on screen. Then here we are having one method called get item. So you pass an index number, it returns the string of the particular option. So given an index, this method obtain the name associated with the item at the particular index. Suppose you give here 3, then it is going to just go to the particular 3 index number, and what is the string you have been stored into that particular index will be returned. Now coming to the events. Now each time a choice is selected, suppose you select a particular option from the drop down list, there is a choice control, and item event is generated. And already we have covered event handling in earlier videos. You can just refer to the particular event handling mechanisms in my previous videos. So this choice control is generating an item event whenever you select any item or option from the particular control. Now after the event is generated, that event information should be sent to the listeners, and the listeners need to register themselves at the source. So this is sent to any listeners that previously registered an interest in receiving item event notification from that particular component. So whoever is interested, those listeners need to register at the choice control. Then anytime any option you are selecting, no, the item event is generated, then the item event is going to pass to the registered listeners that okay, this event has occurred, then the concerned action to be taken. Each listener implements a listener interface called item listener interface. Because item event is generated, item listener need to be implemented. That interface defines one abstract method, that is item state change. Now inside this, you need to write your actual logic or action what you need to perform. So the listeners must implement. It's mandate like item listener need to be implemented. Then inside that there is an abstract method, item state change, that to be implemented. Now when you go for this item state change, there is one parameter called item event what you need to pass here. So an item event object is supplied as the argument to this particular method, because this need to handle only the item event. So that should be the parameter here in this particular item state change method. Now I'll show you the demonstration of choice control in Java AWT using VS Code environment. This is the VS Code environment. Here you can see an application for choice control. And here we are using 3 packages. One is AWT where your choice class is stored. Then AWT.event where your item event and item listener is stored. Then applet class is stored in applet package. A public class name is choice demo, that is user defined. Extends applet for lifecycle methods. Then implements the item listener because we need to handle item event. So compulsorily we need to implement item listener. Now here we are creating 2 choice controls. One is for the operating system, that is OS I have named. Then one is the browser. So 2 drop-down lists you need to prepare. So these are only the reference variables what I'm creating. Then one empty message I'm taking. Then a font class reference variable I'm creating because I need to increase the size of the font so that it will be visible properly on screen. Then here this is the first lifecycle method of an applet from where your execution is going to start. Inside this I'm converting the reference variable to an actual object by using new choice control constructor. Similarly for the browser also I'm trying to create a choice control object. So here we have already taken reference variable, here we are converting into an object. Now if whatever you have created here for the font, I'm using that, and new font of, here I'm passing the font family, then font style and the font size. I need to make this applicable to the drop down list. So here you can see first choice control OS object dot set font of that F you are setting so that Arial and bold you're going to get and size of 20. Now you need to add some items to the operating system choice control. So by using add method, you can see here add method. By using add method, we can do that. Then here I'm adding Windows XP, Windows 7, Solaris and Macintosh for operating systems. Similarly for browser choice control, I'm setting the font what I've taken. Then by using add method, I'm adding to the browser also a few items. One is Google Chrome, Safari, Opera, Firefox and Internet Explorer. Once the 2 choice controls are ready, I need to add choice controls to the actual applet window by using add method. Add of choice control called OS, add of choice control called browser. Then you need to register the listener called item listener for operating system object. That is a choice control, and browser choice control. So you need to add the item listener by using add item listener of this. This represents the current object. That means the item listener is for only for this object. That's the meaning. Then we have seen that in the item listener interface, we have one method called item state changed. And this item state change method is holding an event called item event. So that is a parameter for this particular method. And inside this, the action has been called repaint. Repaint is going to call the paint method. In the paint method, we have a graphics class as a parameter by which I need to call the drawstring method for printing some data. Now here for this graphics, I'm setting the font. Again, the same font I'm setting. And here I'm taking a message called current OS, which will print as it is. And whatever you have been selecting in the OS choice control, I need to extract. So here we have one method called get selected item. So whatever option you are going to select from the operating system object, then we are able to get that particular string, and that is concatenated with the actual message, like current OS is so and so. Then that need to print on screen now by using a method called drawstring, g.drawstring, and the message you are going to print in 6,120 intersection point, because x is 6 and y is 120. There you are going to print that particular message like current OS, then whatever you selected. Similarly, the same message I'm using for current browser, this one will print as it is. Then the message concatenated with the get selected item from that. So in the browser choice control, whatever you're selecting, that also will be printed. And here we are printing 6 by 140. So why we are changing the values? X is same, but why we are changing the value? So that it will not overlap the answer. So one message is for the operating system selection, one message is for the browser selections, since we have two choice controls. Then finally, after closing your application, you need to write this comment, that is applet tag, which is part of your HTML. Then we have a code attribute which is mandatory, and you need to give the class name, and don't give any extension like .java not .class. So when you're writing like this, it is implying that it is a .class file. And here you can say the choice demo is a class name. The same file you need to write down, because when you compile, you get the same .class file. Then what is the height and width of the applet window you are going to set? That's up to you. Then close the tablet tag and put in comments, because this is not part of your Java, so you need to put in comment. But while running, while at runtime, the applet viewer is going to read only this one, and it will execute the class file. Just save the program and run. So go to the terminal, new terminal, and since I have stored this particular file into one folder, subfolder, I'm just going for that. So you also need to carefully go to the particular folder, where that means where you are saved, and then only you need to run. Now compile here by using javac choice demo.java. Then you go for applet viewer, that is an exe file. Then same choice demo.java you need to put, because it will read the applet. It will need to read this one, okay, from the source file. Then you press enter. Now here you can see one window has appeared. So just maximize to see the output. Now here this is one choice control. By default, window XP is selected. Here the Google Chrome. So whichever is first one, it is going to select. So whatever you have selected here, you can see here current OS will print as it is. 6 by 120 location we are printing, and here 6 by 140 location we are printing current browser. And since you can see whatever you are selecting, that is visible here, just change the values and check, cross verify whether it is changing or not. If I select Windows 7, we're getting Windows 7 here. If I select Opera, we are getting Opera here. Now, so whenever you select any item like this, item event is generated. It is notifying the item listener. In that item state change method is called, and it's calling repaint method. Repaint method internally called the paint method, and the paint method we are writing the logic how you are going to store the values into the message variable. Then if I go for Firefox, it is changing Firefox. If I go for Mac, it is going to change. Now, when you hold the event handling concept, then only this particular things can work. So I hope I have given some input on how to create a choice control and how to add it, and how to work with the item event and item listener whenever selecting any component from any choice from the choice control. So if you like this video, Please do subscribe, comment, and share it to your friends. Thank you.